Yeah, and welcome back to Bible Break. We're leaving Mark for the moment, and we're going back to the book of Genesis. Well, the first 11 chapters, we were looking at things at a more sort of general and universal level in terms of origins and beginnings of the world and of human history. And chapter 12, where we pick up again uh, today, is looking at the origins, the beginnings of the Jewish people, the people that God would use as a vehicle to to whom He would entrust His truth, and who He would use as a vehicle to reveal Himself ultimately to the entire world. So that's where we are, Genesis chapter 12. And I'm reading from my NIV as usual. And we're going to read the whole chapter because it's not that long. So it's the call of Abraham is the subtitle here in my NIV. The Lord had said to Abraham, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you." Now it's important, before I carry on reading, it's important that little word the Lord had said to Abram, in that it's quite clear that Abram was on a journey with God already, and he'd stopped. He'd stopped in Haran, as we'll see, and he'd stayed by the looks because he was doing quite well there. So it's interesting how this is God goading Abraham, as we shall see in the second half of the chapter as well, to trust Him more, not just trust Him, but trust Him more. So here we go. The Lord had said to Abram, leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. So Abram left as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran. And they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. So Canaan was the land that God had showed and was showing Abram. Abram traveled through the land as far as the site of the great tree of Moreh at Shechem. The Canaanites were then in the land. But the Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to the Lord, who had appeared to him. From there he went on toward the hills east of Bethel, and pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. Then Abram set out and continued towards the Negev. So he's already built 2 altars there as well. Not slow to acknowledge God in all his ways and worship God. Now, second half of the chapter, there was a famine in the land of Canaan, and Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine was severe. I'm sorry to be pausing all the time as we're reading, but I think it sort of helps in a sense to point out 1 or 2 things as we go along also, because this is something that will repeat itself over the course of their history, the Jews' history. Indeed, Abram's grandson, Jacob, his son, in other words, Abram's great-grandson, Joseph, will go before the family into Egypt, and all the family will follow him down into Egypt, where they will stay for, I think it's 400 years, before Moses takes them back out to there, or takes them out of Egypt. So here's a foretaste of all that. The famine was severe, so Abram went down into Egypt. As he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife, Sarai, "I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' Then they will kill me, but will let you live. Say you are my sister, so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you. When Abram came to Egypt, the Egyptians saw that she was a very beautiful woman, and when Pharaoh's officials saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and she was taken into his palace. He treated Abram well for her sake, and Abram acquired sheep and cattle, male and female donkeys, men servants and maidservants, and camels. But the Lord inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh, or plagues, as that could be translated. Again, a foretaste of something to come later on. So serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife, Sarai. So Pharaoh summoned Abram. "What have you done to me?" he said. "Why did you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she's my sister, so that I took her to be my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go." Then Pharaoh gave orders about Abram to his men, and they sent him on his way with his wife and everything he had. So I think Abram got off lightly there. But it was because this Pharaoh, I think, read the plague correctly and realized that far from making matters worse by dealing with Abraham for having lied to him, the best thing Pharaoh could do was recognize, I don't know whether he would have seen it as God's hand, but certainly something bigger than him at work in all of this, and he'd better not touch Abram any more than he shouldn't have touched Sarah, or Sarai, she's at this point. So this Pharaoh did the right thing and didn't hang about getting rid of Abram and Sarah, which would not be the case, of course, with the Pharaoh further down the line at the time of Moses. So anyway, there's a lesson there. What is interesting, as I say, that there seems to me to be three stages in the development of Abram's faith, or God working on Abram, because it's God, who works on our faith. It's not that we are wonderful people with wonderful faith ourselves. God works on our faith. It's God who takes the initiative in calling Abram in the first instance. And as I've said, because he got stuck in Haran, the point about chapter 12 is that it looks as though God is recalling Abram and saying to him, look, where is your security? Was your security with your family and with all that you knew? Or is your security now here in Haran, where I have given you good success, where you have been successful and where you have acquired much? Or are you going to go on with me and go to the place that I said that I would show you? And that place is Canaan. And so Abram obeys. Faith translates into obedience, and Abram obeys. He responds to the call and then the recall of God, and he continues on to Canaan. But as I said, I believe that there are two stages there that I've mentioned. I believe that there are three stages, though, altogether in the development of Abram's faith at the outset, the things that God wants to say to him, show him, teach him right from the very beginning. And the third phase, as it were, now comes with this famine. Because Abram is under no illusions that he can't stay in Canaan at the time of the famine, and so he sets off for Egypt. But I think it's fair to say that he's going to learn something about where his faith needs to be, who his faith needs to be in, on this trip. Because he, again, don't get me wrong, I think that we can too easily, I think I've heard preachers too easily criticize Abram in this situation. And of course, again, anachronistically, we see Abram as not treating his wife fairly or with respect in this situation, in sort of just handing her over to Pharaoh, more or less. Well, the reason I say that's anachronistic is because it takes no account of the circumstances and the culture at the time, or of the situation that Abram could have been in at the time. And I think that Abram might have been, from a rational point of view. This is the whole point about what God is going to teach him, though. You see, this isn't the issue here. Isn't feminism? The issue here is faith and what God is going to teach him. Because I think at the time, Abram was in a far better position to consider what the risks and dangers might be to him and his family than we are. And as far as he was concerned, he'd now gone over to the far west, where when people saw his beautiful wife, if they knew that she was his wife, they were going to take her off him anyway and bump him off so that they didn't get any interference from him. Because that was just, it seems, in the ancient world. We saw plenty of it at the time of Noah. That was just with the violence. That is just the way things are carried on in the far west. And so Abram persuades Sarah. Abram gets her to do this, but it we are all in this together. It is Sarah who will have benefited from all the things that Pharaoh gave to Abram, because I think it's fair to say that when Pharaoh chased Abram and Sarah out of the country, they took their possessions again with them, including all the things that Pharaoh would have given to them. So that it is, but it doesn't alter the fact that at the end of the day, this was their ruse, Abram and Sarah. They lied. They did lie, of course, to Pharaoh. Pharaoh did take Sarah to be his wife, with all that involves. Not that anything is spelt out. It never is in the Bible. But, God wasn't happy. And God sent a message to Pharaoh, which obviously got through one way or another in the end, because it is Pharaoh ultimately who confronts Abram and says to him, you've not only hurt yourself here, as it were, but you've put me in great danger. Why didn't you tell me the truth? Why did you lie to me? And I believe at that point, Abram himself is in great danger, and Sarah. But once again, this Pharaoh, it seems he had more sense to bow to a higher power and his designs and what he was doing, even though that higher power didn't seem to have a particularly moral face in lying at the time, as Abram represented him, as it were. But he got the message, that's the point. And one way or another, and Pharaoh had decided, I better not touch these, I better let them go. And so why am I talking about a lesson to Abram and for Abram's faith here? Well, because I think the message that Abram would have got in this was that, and this is something that I think is very important for us and for many of us, at least at the present time. I think Abram, as he descended into Egypt, they were fleeing a great danger, famine, and they were going there to sort themselves out. But whereas quite reasonably and logically and rationally, Abram might have been right in drawing the conclusions that he was drawing about what might happen to him and what might happen to Sarah when they got there, the point was that Abram felt that he was bound, and Sarah felt that she was only bound to take one course of action, that there was no other way out. But God showed them that there was, because he had charge of the situation and he was in charge of the situation. He would have looked after them, he would have protected them, as indeed he did anyway, ultimately, by allowing them to leave unscathed. So that might be a lesson that we need to hold on to there. That, we're never in a position where we have to do the only thing that appears to be uh, available to us. Not if we're Christians. Um, I'm not saying that the risk and the danger isn't there, but we can learn to overcome that and put our faith and trust in God and look to Him to keep us and protect us and look after us. So I'll leave you with that. And great to start with Abram, isn't it? See you next time.